Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Aline. I am your host. And today we're going to be talking with a gentleman who spent many years of his career helping CEOs and mid-sized to large-sized companies find their breakthroughs so that they can become more successful. He has also written a book to help people find their breakthroughs in their romantic relationships, in a book called Why You Can't Find Love. And so it's going to be a very interesting conversation about his thoughts around why he's writing a love relationship book and how the lessons he's learned from his corporate and business activities have helped him understand human behavior. And I know you all are going to have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. And so without further ado, we welcome Ted Santos, who is president of Turnaround Investment Partners, into the studio. Hi, Ted, and welcome.
Hi, and thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. And that was a very interesting way when you connected the two, corporate and the personal, for the book. So I like that. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, I am really curious to hear, particularly from someone who considers themselves a disruptor, right? And because there is so much activity in the relationship space right now, if anyone's on social media, there are tons of people who are offering advice and anecdotes and recipes for how to find a successful relationship. Some of it is quite aggressive. Some of it is fun. Some of it is spiritual. Some of it seems like truth serum. So again, for someone who considers himself a disruptor, what did you think that you could bring differently to this conversation about relationships?
Well, I actually started studying human behavior when I was 9 years old. And I actually started researching women. I wanted to understand. I'd hear my uncles and the boyfriends of my aunt say women need an instruction manual, and I was going to write it. So I didn't know I was doing research. What it just so happened, after a while of researching about women and dating and biology and sex and all of these things that, at 9, you're just taking it in. And then I would interview my aunt's friends, like, to confirm my findings. So I would be asking them questions and they would be like, "Oh, that's so cute, but did you hear this question? 10, 11 years old, like, where's he getting this?" So then you have to then study men and women together. So that gave me a huge competitive advantage as an executive leading people when I found my way into corporate America, because having such an in-depth and profound understanding of people helped me understand how to motivate people and get them to do things that they didn't know they could do that you may consider a breakthrough. So writing the book, you could say the genesis was from a child, and then I put into practice corporate America, and then I developed the methodology for transforming corporate culture, people, mindset. And so then I brought it back to where I started and wrote the book, where I took my corporate training and put it into a relationship. So it doesn't even look like corporate training. It's just common sense, not common sense, because it's quite provocative, I'll say, for lack of better words. It causes the reader to go on a journey of transformation.
But you talk a lot in at least some of your videos. I haven't read the book yet, but you talk a lot in your videos and even some of the interviews that you've done, a lot around mindset. And so is that the consistent theme that you find, that the challenges that people have in their businesses, that they have in corporate America, are some of the same challenges that they have in their relationships as well?
Without question, because who you are is who you are. So what triggers you in your personal life will trigger you at work. Differences at work, they give you etiquette and how to engage in the face of the triggers, so you generally may suppress them. In your intimate life, there's no etiquette. Like anything goes. So it's not like we go to work and we peel off this, like a banana, we peel off who we are and go to work and become someone else, and then put the peeling on when we go home. You just are who you are. So that mindset is consistent no matter where you go. And so you'll have the same triggers. You'll have a lot of the same patterns, your mental barriers, your roadblocks. If you have blind spots, you just have blind spots. They don't go away because you won't work.
So the people, so because we have etiquette at work, would that be one of the explanations for why there are people who can be great business people, right, or great in the corporate area, but seem to have lousy luck or lousy success in like their personal relationships, particularly romantic relationships?
Yes, but see, we're trained to go into the workforce. You take a class on finance. You take a class. You take your whole major is in marketing, finance, engineering, mathematics. All of these things we're trained, and then you go to work, and they may give you some very specific and detailed training to, like marketing breaks off into a lot of different disciplines. Where's the training for relationships? So
there is none.
Essentially,
there hasn't been.
Right. So essentially, we play trial and error with another person's life. So it's almost like becoming a brain surgeon by never going to school, just getting people, opening up the brain and say, oh, that didn't work. Next. Oh, another. Oh, I'm so sorry. Who's next? And then you see people like, I don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want another brain surgeon by an inexperienced so-called, quack. But that's, we do relationships by trial and error. And what you hear people say, well, I know what not to do. But you don't hear a brain surgeon saying, I know what not to do. You want the best brain surgeon. If your child is dealing with some affliction in the brain, you want the best possible brain surgeon. You don't want that person who's just going to play trial and error. You want someone who studied and knows what to do, and they know their way around the brain, and they know where not to cut and what to do and what, to connect. So we have no training.
And so you would suggest that people need as much coaching in personal life activity as they would in the workforce. We take it for granted that we're gonna get that in the workforce, or that we seek it out in the workforce. But we should be looking for at least some sort of support, or we should be at least examining how we interact with each other before we enter these relationships.
Yes, that's a good way to say it. Everyone's heard of corporate social responsibility. Mm-hmm. And we often think in terms of the environment. So corporate social responsibility is your footprint, your fossil footprint. Well, what if corporate social responsibility could transform our society? And here's why I say it's important. There are two things. So one is, about 80% of our waking lives is dedicated to corporate America. Either going to work, at work, dealing with work from home. And even when we watch television, in the commercials we watch, it's corporate America selling something to us, right? Mm-hmm. So why not be able to get that kind of training from corporate America? And I say that because I'm going to ask you a question. Corporate America is losing $300 billion, that's $1 billion, in workplace productivity every year. $300 billion every year down the drain in workplace productivity. Do you have any idea why?
I think there are a lot of reasons why. I mean, people feel disconnected from the workplace. They feel disconnected from the work that they're actually doing. Sometimes they don't feel valued. They're bad hires, right? Okay. Right. People who are misfits in the organization. I would imagine that it's a combination of all of those things.
Okay. There's an organization, And that's what people normally say, those things. They'll even say people are on Facebook or Twitter or something else.
Right.
But there's an organization called Life Innovation Study, and they did the mathematics, and they found that $300 billion in workplace productivity is lost because of divorce.
Because of divorce.
And bad relationships. So another organization found that workplace performance drops by 50 to 75% when you're dealing with a divorce. So imagine you have a large organization, a percentage of your employees are headed for divorce, a percentage are in the middle of it, and another percentage just came out of it, all distraught. I know someone who, after his divorce, he took off 1 year from work. Most people can't afford to do that. So what do? They punch in and they just sit there and they think about how they have to recalibrate their entire life. And, divorce is not a pleasant experience, we said. So and then there's 30 billion lost or bill to the taxpayer because of social programs, prison, and theft and all these crimes that come out of divorce. So it's costing us over $300 billion a year. So if we look to the corporation and said, hey, there are certain skills and competencies that make a marriage work. If people could actually learn those skills at work and use them in the workplace and then bring them home and transfer, then we could help mitigate the divorce rate. Now, one thing is interesting, and it's why my book is about transformation, is because there are two things happening in our society now. Marriage rates are at an all-time low. They first started recording them in 1865, and since 1865, they've never been this low. They're dropping. At the same time, the affluent class marriage rates have not dropped at all, not even a little bit. And divorce rates have always been lower in the affluent class. And most people, well, I'll ask you, why do you think that's the case? Divorce rates are low in the affluent.
Oh, because for them, they understand that marriage is about wealth building, right? And there's a lot more to lose, right, when people at a certain level are divorcing.
Yeah, that's what most people think. It has nothing to do with money.
What does it have to do with value?
What do you
values, personal values?
Now,
how people enter marriage and what they think of marriage.
You were really good right there. Compatibility. So when you look at a person's core values, their family values, that's what's compatible, because those don't change over time. Right. Most people say, oh, we have so much in common. We like the same music. We like to drink. We like to go to the... Those things change over time. But when you talk about how do you value money? How do you manage money? How do you manage your mental and physical health? How do you value sex? How do you want to raise your children? How do you want to discipline them? All of these things, and that's a short list of values that you will have inherited from your home life. How you manage money is a big one, right? Your physical health, the mental health. Those are pretty consistent over time. And so there's a guy by the name of Thomas Stanley. You may know him from his first book, I think, was Millionaire Next Door. Mm-hmm. He did a really deep dive, and that's what he found, that it was the core values is what kept them together. And he did, you could say, case studies. And he looked at these couples who were not wealthy when they married, and the husband took a risk, lost it all. They're sleeping out of the car, and the wife never left because she knew she chose the right guy.
Right.
And I think it's one of the founders for LinkedIn. I think his first venture failed. His wife was pregnant. They had to go move in with his parents. He was 40, right. An embarrassment, but the wife never left his side. Robert Kiyosaki, poor dad, same story. Slept out of the car and his wife never left. So it wasn't money. It was values that kept compatibility they had. So a lot of people are not sure how to even discern who's compatible with them. And so that's why a journey of transformation, the better you understand yourself, what your values are, what you're committed to, the future to which you are committed, those help you choose the person who's in your lane.
So you mentioned something interesting about the billions of dollars that are lost due to divorce or what's impacting productivity in the workforce, right? Is there a way, or are corporates, can they even possibly be responsible in any way to help people understand that the skills, the life skills that they are able to master in the workplace can help them in their personal life or in their romantic life? Is there a way, since the studies are finding that there is a correlation, is there any way to impact that in the workplace itself?
Well, that's what I was saying. The next level of corporate social responsibility would have to be that, where you develop mindsets. So part of our problem is the more divorce we have, then the more divorce we have. Divorce starts to look like the solution. Well, I'm not happy. Right. It's not going the way I anticipated. I'll just get a divorce. Where people go into it understanding that there's a high likelihood that they're going to get a divorce because most marriages end in divorce. So
right,
it's a mindset that people have that really needs to transform. It's almost like people have defeated themselves before they start it. It's like they start the marriage with an exit strategy in place.
I want to go back a little bit to you having this passion for human behavior. And when was it that you actually discovered that you could carve out a space for yourself as a career to really help corporations understand what their blind spots were and how they could fix them?
So I'm going to answer this by having a conversation with you. I'm going to ask a question. And this is directly related to my work. So you personally, if you had a choice of two relationships, and the guys were equal in most ways, one relationship you knew was going to be highly committed and the other one was going to be very passionate, which you choose?
That's an interesting question. Because passion and commitment are both important in a relationship.
Yeah, right. Life and leadership is about being able to make decisions, that we've got to make a decision with what's in front of you.
That's an interesting one, because with a committed relationship, you could develop passion, right? That's something that could be developed, right? If you both have to be. And with a passionate relationship, the hope is that it could lead to commitment. So if I had to make a choice, I'd go with committed.
Good. I think I've only met one person who would choose passion, and that it was a hope. But there are millions, probably billions of passionate relationships that crashed and burned. Right.
Right. We know that.
There are billions of highly committed relationships that continue to go, and went the distance. Probably built passion and all kinds of affinity and love because it was highly committed. So good.
Right.
So when you ask me, when did I become passionate? Now I'm going to help you understand why I never, ever pursue anything with passion and commitment, highly committed. As an athlete, as anything that I do. Passion usually, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent, usually revolves.
No, because I'm actually going to ask you about that. So you can either start it now or we can talk about it later, because most coaches today, right, particularly in, we have access on social media, we've access to a ton of information. Okay. And so most people are encouraged to find their passion, right? In fact, that's what a lot of folks will tell you they're struggling with, right? I don't know what my passion is. I can't find my passion, right? And so that's what you find a lot of people either being coached for or looking for. If I can find my passion, then I can find my happiness, I can find my way. And what you're saying is that may not necessarily be true. I mean, I want to know what your path was, but I also want to know for listeners who have probably been told and have probably heard it on this podcast as well, find what that passion is. How would you respond to them?
Well, I just did. You made it clear that the choice is commitment, not passion.
It's commitment.
So I didn't have to really answer it. You answered it. But, I like talking about Usain Bolt for many different reasons. Mm-hmm. But passion is usually something that feels really good. It resonates and you love the way it makes you feel. When you read about Usain Bolt and him training, the days that he trained so hard that he vomited, that didn't feel good. I mean, you can't imagine how intense your training has to be to vomit. If you're just doing it for passion, that's like, I'm out. I'm done. This isn't, I'm passionate about it, but I don't want to be feeling this way. I feel horrible. But he trained to break a world record. How he felt while training was irrelevant. It was creating a time that no one had ever done. Still done it. That's a very different. So this is where we keep coming to mindset. Very different mindset. And there are. If we look at sport, basketball, there are lots of for the NBA. There are lots of men who are passionate about playing basketball, and they never make the NBA. And then there are people, and this is all going to deal with mindset. Then there are people who are committed to making the NBA team. I'm going to train, and I'm going to make the team. And then there are people who are committed to being a starting player. That's a very different mindset from the passionate or the person who just wants to make the team. The person who just wants to make the team, they make the team, they get very little play time. The person who commits and trains to start, they start. Then you get the LeBrons and the Jordans and the Kobes. That mindset is on another planet, right? They're not training to start. They're not training to make the NBA. These guys are making history. They're doing what's never been done. So this mindset, that's a commitment. You're not, because if Michael Jordan was cut junior year of high school from the team, I can't even imagine what transpired for him. Like what kind of trick. He had to be doing things that no one has done in training and did it in private to allow him to produce the results he had done. Right. And that would not have always felt good. But his commitment was beyond the feeling, provided he didn't hurt himself and he did a damn job, right? So, so I didn't have a passion about helping people. My first job in the world of training, I was a sales trainer, and it was actually really good. It fit right into the kind of research I had been doing from a child, and so it gave me a formal structure, and it was in the psychology of sales, and it was dealing with selling to acrimonious prospects. How do you deal with difficult prospects? So really good stuff, like psychological warfare in the sales process, kind of, right? And then I took that and I was a COO for a transportation company. And my sales training background was excellent for me to be able to train my operations people in dealing with difficult situations, tough conversations. I mean, it also allowed me to change the culture. There were some things that we did, and I said, we're no longer doing that. And I said, now we're going to tell customers the truth. We screw up, we're telling them. And they laughed and said, and then we're going to be out of business. No, that's not the way we operate here. And so then they started saying, you're being ridiculous. So they started role playing with me. And all my sales training was perfect, because sales training does a lot of role playing for you to have mastery in the sales process. And so they started embracing my tools. At first, they said, okay, you want me to do it? I'll do it. Because you said it, and you're the boss. And then they said, it worked, but that was luck. And next time, what if this happens? And what if that happens? So all of my training was excellent in being able to manage them. And then at some point, they saw that I did know what I was talking about. They trusted me. And then they basically told me to go away because they didn't need me anymore. They could do it on their own. They say, go work on some other thing. Go do some other thing. But that's what you want for your team. You want your team to tell you to go away.
To go away.
Got it. I only call you when it's a real emergency and it's over our head. And I need you.
I know you have a full program, particularly if you're working with CEOs and particularly large scale organizations. But what would you suggest to smaller business owners who may not have the resources or may not have the staffing, and maybe particularly around mindset in general? In what things should they be looking at if they feel stuck, or if they feel that they need a breakthrough, or if they're feeling that they haven't been able to move forward?
So, if I'm in an elevator and someone asks me, what do you do? I say, I'm in the business of making some miracles. CEOs, mid-sized to large companies hire me when they are looking to create a breakthrough and they're not sure how to do existing resources. And the way that looks practically is I work with them to create disruptive strategies, and that can turn out to be disruptive technology, penetrating an untapped market, ultimately seeing revenue, and then transforming the corporate culture so that they profitably execute that breakthrough initiative. So with that, if you have that as the background, what that is really driving is you're the CEO. Your job is to intentionally create problems in your organization to solve. If you're not doing that, you should be fired or retrained.
And I did see a video that you had done where you said you don't solve problems, you create problems. And so could you explain for our audience what that means?
Right. So the problem can often turn out to be a miracle. Right? So I never worked for Apple, but just imagine Steve Jobs saying, look, I want you to put 1,000 songs on a device. It's never been done. That's a problem. How do we do? And one, why are we even making listening devices? We make these beautiful computers that all the ad agencies love. We have almost like a cult following. We have fans. Why do we need to make this little tiny device that competes with the Walkman or the Discman, whatever? And when they solved the problem, 1,000 songs on this little device, which it's still a computer, but it required all kinds of new skills, competencies, possibly new vendors, and possibly even their vendors had to have breakthroughs. And then the next problem becomes turning that iPod into a cell phone. So let me say it like this. Problems, disruption, breakdowns can often be chaotic because of the amount of uncertainty. And as a culture, we're taught to avoid problems. When there's a problem, you want to do this. He did it. He did it. Right? If it's chaos, you want to get away from it. And so what we're taught to do is not so much solve problems, get rid of the uncertainty, get rid of the chaos, and if you look at a breakthrough as the breakdown, the chaos at the front of your hand, and the breakthrough was the other side, the back of the hand. If you're unwilling to go through the chaos, then you really don't want the breakthrough. So that's a very different mindset than just wanting to solve a problem. So ultimately, I'm talking about intentionally creating chaos. And chaos technically is not chaos. It's the mindset. It's what you say about yourself or what you say about what's occurring that makes it chaotic. So a 2-year-old can see the untied shoestring as chaotic. But a 10-year-old just bends over, ties them. And then when you're 20, if you're losing your mind over your shoestring coming loose at 20, people start to look at you and wonder, your coping skills. So it's really very much about mindset and being able to navigate yourself through the uncertainty instead of going to triggers of, I always have these problems, or woe is me and this always happens to me, or people do this to me, or nothing goes. The list of things that I knew this wouldn't work, someone told me it wouldn't work, instead of being triggered by that, which then takes you off from what you're committed to, having the kind of training and the mindset to be able to navigate through chaos keeps you focused on what you're committed to and understanding there's a gap. You're here and you want to get here, and there's something missing in the gap. So as you fill in what's missing, you bridge the gap. So if you're just thinking about how horrible things are because you think you failed, you never bridge the gap.
If you just stay in that space. And taking it back to relationships, would you say that that's that's a correlative piece as well, right? That where people just want to walk away, right? As soon as there's a problem, right, we just want to throw our hands up and walk away. Or someone, as soon as we feel uncomfortable in a particular way, that becomes a deal breaker. Is that the same type of challenge that people in relationships are finding as well?
I don't feel the passion. Where's the passion? I need the passion. What there's the triggers that people have that send them way off into a different direction. Either they have to be defensive because they're triggered. And so my work, I never call it conflict resolution, but once you understand the essence of conflict resolution, the essence of conflict resolution almost never has anything to do with the other person or the situation. So it's not about saying this smooth thing. It's about your own internal conflicts that trigger you and have you go off in a million directions. And now you're in conflict with the other person because you haven't resolved your own conflicts. So when you can develop a mindset and address many of your conflicts, you can go into a tough situation and not be triggered and actually be able to talk through and find out what the other person needs and be able to properly communicate what you stand for and what you're committed to. And so when we look at relationships, oftentimes there's a misinterpretation, and they interpret it based on their past, whatever they learned in their family, and they can be triggered by something. Sometimes they're saying the same things and they don't realize it because of the interpretation. And it's just a misunderstanding, and they have no way of talking through that misunderstanding because now they're dealing with the triggers as opposed to what we're really talking about here.
How accepting are people to these ideas that you're having around, particularly relationships? The book is fairly new, but what are your thoughts and what are you feeling in terms of how people are accepting or receiving the information that you're offering?
So, especially from women, the things that I hear is that it completely altered their view of relationships. And these will be women already in successful relationships, right? I would say that's a big deal. The woman's in a successful relationship and still finds that the book altered her view of relationships. I mean, most people will tell you, I'm good, everything's fine. I don't need anything. So, and I've even heard someone say they had to read it more than once because some of the conversations in the book were so new that they had to read it more than once to fully grasp it. So the book is not me just saying, this is Ted's world and do it this way. It's actually 5 women engaging me in a conversation. They're kind of interviewing me, and they're kind of tough. They're not letting me off the hook. Ted, sure, man, and you said this, and it's based on an event that actually happened in New York, in Manhattan. So,
Oh, that's right. I think I read that you were all at a party,
yes,
and it just happened to be the last ones at this party,
exactly,
and and this conversation was the inspiration
exactly.
for the book. What is there anything that you can share that you would one thing or two things that you think are disruptive about what you introduce in this and that people could consider or you'd like them to consider? Like I said, there's a lot of conversations around transforming relationships, and for a number of reasons, right? Like if we look at what's going on in our community, if we look at the the visceral responses that we're seeing between Black men and Black women,
Right.
the challenges with young people, and like you said, the interest in marriage is declining. Yeah, like this is important work, right? When people can receive it, and so, what would you think is one or two disruptive things that would help people change the way they think about
Sure.
relationships?
So the book is called "Here's Why You Can't Find Love," and so I'm the whole book, without explicitly saying, is telling you why you can't find love. And the punchline, I never put it in the book, is the reason you can't find love is because you're looking for love.
I get that.
I'm not sure you do. I'm willing to bet you don't, but maybe you do.
Well, from what I understand from a spiritual context is that you have to when you become, then you don't have to look any longer. So when you are full of yourself, right? When you can become love, when you can become the expression of what you demand from everyone else, then you automatically form an energy, right? That attract those things to you. Because the reason is, and I've had these conversations too, it's hard to say, and you mentioned this earlier, right? When we're in bad situations, it's easy to say it's your fault, right? Like it's you're the reason why I'm doing that, without examining like what space we were in to even attract the person who's sitting next to us or sitting in front of us. And so, yeah, when you become when you become and represent that which is love, then you can't help but attract great love.
Okay, I can see why you or anyone would say that, and I think um, initially you may not like what I'm going to say.
Oh no, I'm interviewing, so I'm curious to hear. It's not whether or not I like it or not, but
But
I'm interested in hearing your perspective.
well, love has nothing to do with creating a great relationship. See, people go into relationships backwards. They go into relationships looking for love, hoping that, like all the songs, love will save the day. All you need is love. The Beatles, like all these songs, and love
Mm-hmm.
conquers all. We've heard that ad nauseum in so many movies and in the fairy tales. But if you're looking for mediocrity, maybe going for love, that could be a way to go. But if you're actually looking for a great relationship, don't go in looking for love, because love is a byproduct of a great relationship. So if you know how to create a great relationship, it would be wise to find someone else who knows how to create a great relationship. And the two of you will build that relationship together, and affinity will come out of that. And out of that affinity grows love. But if you're looking for love to be the foundation, it's based on feelings, and that's just an earthquake waiting to rock your world and fall down and tumble. So if people instead of them committing to trying to be loved, and everyone loves me and I'm so lovable and you can't help but love me. No, develop yourself to be able to create a great relationship. What's your integrity, your level? Do you have a very high level of integrity? How do you resolve conflict? I mean, this is really critical in a relationship. For any, even when you look at the top executives, they tell you that one of the skills they wish they were better at was conflict resolution. And that's part of the reason why I say if we could train people in the corporation and have them bring that home, lots of problems would just go away. divorce would almost disappear. So resolving conflict, right? How do you, so, and the good thing about intentionally creating problems is that it requires your communication to be more effective than normal. So if all you're doing is the normal, everyday, mundane thing, everyone kind of knows what we're talking about. But when you're creating disruption and chaos, it requires a level of communication. So if you have that as a practice to be more effective in your communication, because you're accustomed and comfortable going through chaos, you bring that to your relationship. So these are just some of the building blocks of creating a great relationship. And then love comes out of it. I mean, just think of a friend that you meet and it's like, man, the way you communicate, the way you come together, the way you work together on things, you start to have an affinity for that person. Because you find them a great person. They have great integrity. You can, if they say they do it, you know it's done.
All right.
Right. And if you get into a misunderstanding with your best friend, somehow the friendship is more important than being right. So somehow you all are able to talk it through. So you resolve the conflict as opposed to letting your triggers destroy the relationship. People don't know how to do these things. There's, in the book, I talk about if you could be a professional husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. And when you're a professional at work, there's etiquette, and the way you engage your top clients is professional. So what if you can engage your husband or wife in a very professional spouse way that fosters growth in the relationship? So stop looking for love and focus on developing everything required to create a great relationship. That's one disruption.
And so what do you hope that this new work will achieve?
A world where people understand what it means to be highly committed, a world where people don't solve their differences through divorce or fighting or wars, that people are actually able to talk things through. And all of this also fosters innovation. So it gives people a freedom to think. So you asked for two things that would be disruptive. The other one that's more disruptive than not looking.
Then forgetting about love.
Well, it's more disruptive.
Why have a dagger through my heart? But go ahead.
It's more disruptive than get rid of passion. This one is all about killing trust.
Killing trust.
Yes, if you go into any relationship, we live in a world where trust is highly valued, right?
Yes, it is.
But see, if you were to kill trust, you can have a much higher quality relationship and much greater freedom, because trust never travels alone. And so trust has
So is that equivalent to having no expectation, or is that very different?
very different. Yeah, it's a mindset. It's a very different mindset. So
Okay. All right. I'm listening.
So trust has a faithful companion that's always there waiting around the corner. And who do you think trust's faithful companion is?
I don't know.
Oh, you've been doing so well all day.
Maybe I'm afraid to answer. You dashed all of my my belief.
Go away.
You just swept them all up and put them in a trash heap. But what I mean with I know what happens when people feel that trust is broken, right? Like that for many people is devastating, right? Like that's what ends up having folks say, I want a divorce, right? I can't trust this person anymore. I thought I knew this person. I thought this, and now they've broken my trust. But when you say what is lurking or what's the companion?
Trust has a faithful companion. Everywhere trust goes, their companion is right there.
I would imagine that trust has a shadow, right? Because trust can be very subjective as well, right?
I don't know. You're saying, I didn't say it. You said,
I'm thinking, you're making me think that the trust can be very subjective as well.
okay, so what
Right.
trust?
So something that I thought would be trustworthy, maybe someone else didn't or didn't feel that way in the moment that whatever was happening is happening. Right.
So you're saying trust companion is, I'm not clear. I'm still not clear.
Maybe it's I don't think I am, because I think that when we think about trust, right, at least I've always thought about trust as an absolute, right? So you're either trustworthy or you're not, right? So there's not a companion piece to that, right? Like either you're solid or you're not. Either I can trust you or I can't.
You're really in the neighborhood. You're doing really well.
All right.
Doing really well.
I'm knocking over the cones, but I'm not.
You're doing that parallel parking.
Okay.
Trust has a faithful companion that goes by the name of mistrust.
Oh, okay. I get you. Which is that whole, either I trust you or
Right. That's what
I don't. Right?
you're
Okay.
You're,
All right. Yeah. Okay.
but so think of it this way.
Okay.
There are two things. The first thing is you get into a relationship and you say, trust is going to make this relationship work. So now you're depending on something outside of you. You're depending on trust to make a bond. And I trust you. And I trust you because, right? So there's this list of things.
Right.
I made you jump through a few hoops and ta-da, I trust you, right? Well, then that comes that day that there's a misunderstanding or a trigger, and it reminds you of something that you heard about or you saw. And now that's when the faithful companion says to trust, step aside. I'm here. My name is Mistrust. And I am running this relationship now. I'm in charge. Trust has no responsibility here. Goodbye. Go around the corner. Maybe I'll call you back. But mistrust is in charge of the relationship. And that's what happens. In fact, I'm willing to say most people start relationships off with mistrust until you jump through the hoops.
You know what? You're right. I don't think I'd ever thought of it that way, but you are right. And we hear it in conversations or all the time, right? I'm just taking it slow because I'm watching, right? Watching to see where he messes up, watching to see where these missteps happen.
Right.
We hear that. Right. Okay.
So if you kill trust, mistrust dies with it. And there's no chance of mistrust ever showing up in your relationship. What you're left with is your word. And it's not that I trust your word because you did these things. I actually sat down with you and had a conversation about the way I see the world and the kind of relationship I want to have with you. I don't want it to depend on something outside of what's called trust, because I know mistrust is around the corner. So
but is trust, is it, when we're having this conversation, isn't trust very much a part of that conversation? It almost sounds as if you're saying that I should just have no expectation, right? You can tell me what you want to see for the world, right? And I should listen to you, obviously, because I like you and we're talking about building this thing. But if I have no expectation, then if I have no expectation, then I can't be surprised by anything, right? I can't say that you've broken my trust. I can't say that you disappointed me in any way.
Well, here's what I can promise you. There's going to come a day when I am going to surprise you. And there's going to come a day when I disappoint you.
Yes.
So I'm willing to say that up front, that this could happen and you could now go to mistrust, right? So what I'm talking about is a paradigm shift. And when we go to this other paradigm, we're not taking trust with us or mistrust. Okay. We're going to operate in this domain, this paradigm where we honor our word as ourself. My word is my bond. If I said I'll be there at 5, that means I'll probably be there 10 minutes to 5, but I'll be there at 5 o'clock. I'll be there. If I said I will no longer do something, I will no longer do it. Only
And so I, as your partner, can't say, I trust that you will be there at 5.
yeah, what that's it was see, that's the old paradigm.
That's the old paradigm.
Because if I'm
Because if you get there at 10 after 5,
you're gonna say I don't trust you. So I'm gonna call you and say, hey, I'm coming from that country they call Jersey, and and the tunnel was backed up more than I thought.
right?
I'm gonna be late. I thought I was gonna be on time. I left a little early, but I'm still late, right? So, but a lot of things that I say, people put a lot of effort into understanding it through that which they already understand.
Already, right?
Let me.
I've seen your videos on that. Yes. Okay. So I understand that.
Por exemplo, se
So I'm trying to be open-minded with this.
eu falo contigo em outro idioma, você não pode entender. Sim ou não?
No comprendo.
Oh, that was Spanish. I was
See.
Portuguese, though.
Okay. So I definitely didn't understand. Right.
Right. So I'm all I'm saying is you were not given Portuguese, therefore you don't speak it and you don't
Right.
understand it, right? All you have is what you were given, and you were given English.
Right.
And so what you were also given when they gave you English is words like trust and mistrust and hope and faith and infidelity and player. There are all these things that you were given, and that's part of your paradigm. And you have proof and evidence. Not only can you say I have proof and evidence, I have friends,
Have experience, right?
you know, and I'm willing to bet that you probably never experienced it. We're getting a little abstract here, but because you were told about it before it ever happened, you may have helped make it happen.
Right. Because now I have an expectation because I heard about you. I heard how you operate.
Exactly.
So I know you. Right. I know who you are.
And all I said was hi. That's
Right. I know who you are.
If you ever met me, I say hi to you. Like a computer printout.
Exactly.
With the chance. What if
Okay.
you down and talk about integrity is honoring your word and yourself, right? So integrity is about being whole and complete. So if I give you my word is whole and complete. And if something happens, I will let you know there's a breakdown as soon as I know, so that you know I'm keeping my word, but something happened that pulled me away. I can't verify, right? I'm still in the office. So what happens is if you don't have to think about whether you trust or mistrust me, that evaporates. You don't even have to think about that anymore. You already know he said he honors himself as his word, and you're going to do the same. So instead of us depending on trust outside of us, we're fully, what we have is our word. It's us creating a relationship, not trust creating it, not some ideal. We're creating it with our word.
Right. And what we're creating is not what those two people over there are creating, or what our parents created, or what my girlfriend created. This is what we created between the two of us.
You are quick. Oh, you made up for all those other answers.
I made up. Okay. All righty. Because what I will say is we need a paradigm shift. I think we need a paradigm shift in so many aspects. I mean, I know we have it's a business podcast, and we have a lot of business people listening, but we need a paradigm shift in how we're relating to each other. And the statistics that you brought up show that, and we know this, right? Like we didn't have the figures to back it up. The 30 billion, you said that we're losing?
No, 300 billion for corporate America.
300 billion in corporate America.
30 billion to the taxpayer, and the corporate America gives to the taxpayer anyway. So that's
right.
$330 billion every year.
Wow. Right. And without even knowing that figure, most of us have enough tales and enough stories where we know how we show up when things aren't operating correctly at home, when things aren't going right with the husband or the wife. We already know the effect that has on our families and on our businesses and everything else. So we are here for Paradigm Shift. I am interested. Like I said, I haven't read the book, but I will order it and I will read it. And at some point, I'd like to have you back. As the book is out here and as you're doing more work and as you have more data for us, we love to hear different points of view, whether they shatter our beliefs or not. We're interested in hearing them. That's what this podcast is about. And I think this is what we need more of in the world, right? Like we cancel people who don't have thought or don't think the way we do or operate the way we do, instead of just listening a little more and taking what we can if we think that it can work for us. And so this was helpful for me. I hope it was helpful for our listeners. And Ted, we would love to have you back. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's really been my pleasure, and I'd love to come back. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. You're a very good interviewer, so thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. And so where can we find you? Where can we find the book? Where can we follow you? And get some more insight. Sure.
So you can find the book on Amazon, of course. You can even find it inside the stores of Barnes & Noble on their website and in the electronic bookstore. You'll find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And like you said, I have a YouTube channel, but you'll find me on LinkedIn for sure.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with another dynamic guest. Take care.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Aline. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.